thank the Valley Fever Center for excellence and the Arizona Department of Health Services for sponsoring this meeting, which I think has become quite successful. What are the goals of this symposium? So at the end of this time, you should have a good overview of what the epidemiology of coccidioidomycosis is in Arizona. You should be able to recognize primary pulmonary coccidioidomycosis, understand the currently available diagnostic tests, and have some concept of how to manage, and I should say both primary pulmonary and disseminated coccidioidomycosis. Our speakers today are going to be Rebecca Sunenshine, who is with the Maricopa County Department of Health and the Centers for Disease Control, Janice Blair from the Mayo Clinic Scottsdale, myself, and Mike Sobel from Banner Health in Phoenix.
Thank you, everyone. I'm really glad that you all came out here today in a dust storm to learn about valley fever. The irony just cannot escape me. It's always a pleasure to do this presentation with this group of incredibly talented physicians. So I'm going to talk to you today about the epidemiology of coccidioidomycosis in Arizona, and actually in the U.S. The objectives of this talk are to understand the epidemiology of coccidioidomycosis in the U.S. and Arizona, to appreciate the impact of Coxy on Arizona's citizens, healthcare system, and economy, and to know what public health is doing about Coxy in Arizona. So just starting with a basic overview of coccidioidomycosis epidemiology, it's of course caused by a fungus found in thermic soil. Basically that's sort of a sandy, salty soil. There are two species of coccidioidomycosis, C. immitis, that is predominantly found in California, and C. possidacei, that is the predominant type found in Arizona. They are clinically identical, so the actual species doesn't really matter. It's endemic in the southwestern United States, Mexico, parts of Central and South America. As you can see on this map that was done based on skin test results in the 1950s. Unfortunately, this is probably the best map that we have for Coxy epidemiology, and you can see that Pima, Maricopa, and Pinal counties are the hot spot for Coxy in addition to parts of California. 60% of all reported U.S. disease is actually reported from Arizona. So that's one of the reasons why we hold this conference every year, is because if you practice in Arizona, you have to think like an Arizonan clinician, and Coxy is just going to have to be much higher on your differential than it is in other states, and we'll hopefully present enough data today to convince you that that's true. So coccidioidomycosis, which I'll call Coxy from now on, is an important public health issue, and there is no licensed vaccine available, and it's a reportable disease in both Arizona and the United States, both by laboratories and by physicians. It's transmitted through inhalation of airborne arthrospores from the soil. Those arthrospores are blown by wind, also with soil disturbance, construction, outdoor activities, gardening, golf, any of those things that disturb soil can cause infection. The incubation period, or the time from when you are exposed to when you develop symptoms, is anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks. There is no person-to-person spread, no animal-to-person spread either. That comes up a lot. And Coxy is usually found in soil about 2 to 8 inches from the surface. And that's really important because a lot of folks worry about mining and things like that in soil that has been disturbed for a long time. And once you get below about 8 inches from the surface, you really don't find those Coxy spores. So risk factors for primary Coxy, there's really only two. You have to be exposed to an endemic area. You can live here or travel. And unfortunately, for the males out there, they are more likely to get Coxy for whatever reason. Risk factors for disseminated Coxy or more severe forms of disease, infants and elderly, in this case individuals older than 65 years, male sex again, Filipino, African American, Native American, and Asian race are definitely risk factors. I generally believe that Hispanic ethnicity is actually not a risk factor, but there are some studies that show that it might be. But I think the general belief among experts is that Hispanic ethnicity is not a risk for disseminated Coxy. Immune-naive individuals and pregnancy is one of the biggest risk factors, especially in the third trimester and just postpartum. So that is your immune system is completely altered, and for whatever reason, Coxy can wreak havoc in women who are in that last trimester and just gave birth. And of course, immunosuppression, including HIV.